Save My Piggies. Your life, your limb, your story. With interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips and Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas.
So today's guest, we have Dr. Kevin Morgan, retired veterinarian, also PhD. He is an author, triathlete, Ironman, all of the above. And my favorite hashtag for him and website is Athlete with Stent. Kevin, thank you so much for being here. We have with us also Dr. George Anatakis, and of course, our co-host, Dr. John Phillips, with us. But Kevin, thank you for being here and telling your story.
What would you like to know?
Everything and anything. So
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes or less. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me comment on the previous conversation. I self-diagnosed with AAA in 2010 as a result of really weird symptoms 10 miles into the run of the Lake Placid Ironman. If it wasn't for that race, I'd be dead now. About 10 days later, I worked out what was going on, so I went to see my physician and request ultrasound. She put a stethoscope to my stomach, said she couldn't hear anything, even though my belly was moving up and down. But with a bit of insistence, she gave me a script. I went and got a scan across the road. It was a 6.9. And then a few days later, I got an MRI, had a Cook-Zenith stent put in. And my physician never, ever showed any further interest. And so once I had the stent put in, I got zero advice on training. All I was told was I would go easy if I were you. That was the input. So I did some research online, went to PubMed, etc. I found several examples of people dislocating AAA stents. One was with the use of a rowing machine because of a very high knees up to your chest. So I substituted an elliptical trainer for that, wrote about this online. I also reduced impact stress. I got a bike built that had less hip flexion because I don't want to yank on my femoral artery. I mean, I'd be dead if I wasn't a pathologist. It was because I was a pathologist I worked out what was going on. Anyway, so I'm still doing Ironman training, 12 years later? And I started a Facebook page. I'm on Facebook quite a bit. And I think the most consistent problem I have is that patients are given very inconsistent advice. Some physicians I've seen tell people straight after an EVAR, within 2 or 3 days, they can just go back to the gym and do whatever they did before, even before it's, really recovered. And other people have been told they can never run again and they need to have a passive lifestyle. So I would say the most useful thing I can do is explain what I do and try and I give them advice. I've helped people quite a bit in that respect. But I guess the real problem is inconsistency in terms of advice from their surgeons, which is understandable. I think it's up to us to work it out. I have no complaints about the medical profession. They keep me alive. I think it's great. Anyway, my AAA was followed by PAD, which started in 2014, numb feet. Then right gastrocnemius started seizing up with claudication. And so now I had another problem. So now I had a AAA and PAD, but I'm still doing Ironman. And so over the next 7 years, I worked out how to get better blood flow to my feet.
Hey, Kevin, why don't you tell the audience briefly what it was like to recover from an EVAR in terms of the recovery? I expected, it was a fairly non-invasive procedure at that time.
I think it could almost have been outpatient surgery. It was like trivial. It was, in fact, if you watch how it's done online, it is magic. I can't believe it. I mean, it's unbelievable how well they do. I was actually invited up to Cook Medical in Indiana, and I met the people who built my stent, 3 ladies. I mean, it was like, what a gift. And they gave me a reject, which now I show people and say, well, this is what I got in my aorta. And 12 years later, I'm still doing training.
It's especially amazing to consider how that evolution of technology has transformed how we care for patients with aneurysm disease when you compare it to the conventional approach, which is a large open operation where patients are in the hospital a week or two and risk of kidney problems and pneumonias. And it's really one of the areas, John, I know you know from performing EVARs yourself, that is really revolutionized how we're able to care for people with injuries.
It's absolutely amazing when it's done in the right with the right hands. Like anything, it can go sideways pretty quickly. So Kevin, with respect to your PAD, you are just treating yourself with exercise. You haven't had any interventions or anything like that. We've got about a minute left.
Well, I had an ABI measurement. I've got, I was advised.
No surgeries or stents or anything?
Against surgery by Mark Farber. He's a good guy. I trust him. And so I developed 10 different ways to run, which is in a book I just published, to improve flow. And it's dramatically improved my blood flow to my feet. And that's in the book. I would like to say one thing about the AAA that's very important.
Okay.
People often write and ask me, I've been offered open versus an EVAR. What shall I do? And then I warn them of the danger of impotence after open. I've even had people write to me and say that they were impotent after open. I guess the pudendal nerve got cut. So I was never even given the choice of open versus EVAR. I mean, they didn't even discuss it. But of course, I knew nothing about it back then. And so to me, that's a really important thing that men need to know, that is a risk, even though I know it's much less of a risk. If you want to know what I did about PAD.
So Kevin, I'm gonna have you stop right there because we've got to go to break. But when we come back, you're going to tell us your 10 kind of steps that you've done with running to kind of help with your PAD. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We've got about 4 minutes left. Kevin, I want you to share with us real quickly those 10 tips that you have for your PAD with respect to exercise and running.
Okay, well, in 2015, when I got the ABI, I could hardly run at all. I'd have to stop every 200 or 300 feet. That blood get in my calf. And of course, I was doing nothing much better than the walking pace. Anyway, in the 7 years since then, I've added one thing after another. And then about 3 months ago, I qualified for World's Half Ironman Championships. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't made these changes. They're based upon 3 basic principles. 1, encouraging blood to my feet, then encouraging blood and tissue fluid through my feet, and then encouraging venous return. And my chapter titles are, number 1, spread your feet. Try and separate your toes and your metatarsals because there are blood vessels that run between them. Number 2, have soft feet. Try and soften your feet because if you scrunch your feet up because of the pain, all you do is restrict flow. Number 3, use the best socks and shoes possible. Never wear tube socks. They squash your feet. Have a big toe box in your shoe, but not so big your feet slide around. Number 4, do whole body running. And for that, you need to read Jack Hagee's book on running with the whole body, which is the best running book that exists. Then you take the load off your legs and you're sharing the load.
Kevin,
5,
we've got 30 seconds left, my friend. 30 seconds.
This was the most important one. Flex your toes. If you gently stroke the ground with your toes as you run, contracts muscles in your feet and your calves, compresses the veins, improves venous return, but you have to do it the right amount. I would say that was the most.
All right, so run with your whole body, flex your toes. We got to go, guys. Thanks, everybody. Great show.
Our mission is to help patients live a better quality of life through comprehensive education, real-time support, and high-touch advocacy in partnership with thewaytomyheart.org and Take a Stand Against Amputation. Our purpose is to reduce the 1.5 million heart attacks and strokes and nearly 200,000 amputations annually. For more information regarding topics you've heard discussed on today's program, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. The Heart of Innovation is for educational and informational purposes only, and advice and views shared are not a substitute for medical advice from your own supervising physician. Do not act on any information provided in this show without the explicit consent from your own healthcare team. If you think you are having a medical emergency, call your local emergency number or go to the nearest hospital or emergency room.